You climbed into bed last night completely exhausted. You turned off the light, pulled up the covers, and thought to yourself, finally, some rest. You fell asleep. You woke up. And somehow, you felt worse than when you closed your eyes. That is not just bad sleep. For millions of adults over 60, that feeling is a signal. A quiet, invisible signal that something is happening inside your chest while you are completely unaware. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people experience their first serious cardiac event not during exercise, not during stress, but in the hours surrounding sleep. And in most of those cases, it wasn't random. It was a pattern. A set of habits so ordinary, so deeply embedded into the evening routine that nobody ever questioned them. Tonight, we are going to question every single one of them. I have spent decades studying the relationship between daily lifestyle habits and cardiovascular disease in adults over 50. In that time, I have sat across from thousands of patients who did everything they were told and still ended up in a cardiologist's office wondering what went wrong. If you are over 60, this message could literally save your life. Not because it is dramatic, because it is specific. And specific is what saves lives. The 7 habits I am about to walk you through are not obscure or rare. They are things you probably did last night without thinking twice. That is exactly what makes them dangerous. Here is what nobody tells you about your heart at night. During the day, your cardiovascular system operates in high-demand mode. Your heart pumps harder, your blood pressure stays elevated, your arteries flex and respond to movement and activity. That is normal. That is what it was designed to do. But as evening arrives, your body is supposed to shift into recovery mode. Blood pressure is meant to drop. Inflammatory markers are meant to fall. Your heart rate is meant to slow into a gentle, restorative rhythm. Researchers call this the nocturnal dip, and it is one of the most important cardiovascular events of your entire day. When certain habits disrupt that dip, your heart never fully recovers. Instead of restoration, it faces a physiological minefield. Cortisol stays elevated, arteries remain under pressure, inflammation quietly builds like embers that never go out. The American Heart Association has consistently linked disrupted nocturnal patterns to a significantly higher risk of heart attack, stroke, and dangerous arrhythmia. And the habits that cause that disruption are not always the ones you expect. Here are the 7 habits most likely to be destroying your heart while you sleep, starting with number 7 and counting down to the most dangerous of all. Habit number 7, the late-night snack. Most people don't see this one as dangerous. It feels harmless. A small bowl of crackers, a handful of nuts, maybe a piece of toast. But here is what that innocent habit is doing to your heart. When you eat within 2 to 3 hours of lying down, your body cannot complete digestion before you shift into horizontal position. Blood sugar spikes late at night trigger a delayed insulin response that keeps your cardiovascular system activated precisely when it needs to be winding down. Your heart rate stays higher than it should. Your blood pressure holds steady instead of dropping. The nocturnal dip we talked about, it simply does not happen. A study published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that late-night eating was associated with a 23% increase in cardiovascular inflammation markers over a 12-week period. I had a patient, a 67-year-old retired teacher who watched her diet carefully all day long. Every evening, around 9 or 10 o'clock, she had what she called her one small treat. A few crackers, maybe a bit of cheese. She never connected it to the erratic blood pressure readings that kept alarming her cardiologist. When she eliminated that single habit, her overnight readings normalized within 3 weeks. The fix: set a firm kitchen close time. Nothing after 7 p.m. if possible. If you must eat late, choose a small amount of plain protein, a hard-boiled egg, or a few tablespoons of plain Greek yogurt. Never high-carbohydrate foods close to bedtime. Pro tip: the most dangerous foods after 8 p.m. are the ones that feel healthy: crackers, fruit, granola bars. Their glycemic impact at night is significantly higher than during the day. How many evenings this week did you eat something after 8 p.m.? Be honest with yourself. Habit number 6. Sleeping in a room that is too warm. This one surprises almost everyone. You want to be comfortable. A warm room feels cozy and safe. But here is what that warmth is doing to your cardiovascular system while you are unconscious. Core body temperature naturally drops during healthy sleep. That drop is a direct trigger for the release of melatonin, the reduction of cortisol, and the slowing of your heart rate. When a warm room prevents that temperature drop, your body stays in a low-grade state of thermal stress all night long. Your heart keeps working, your blood vessels stay partially constricted, your cortisol levels remain higher than they should. A landmark study from the National Sleep Foundation found that adults who slept in rooms warmer than 70 degrees Fahrenheit had significantly elevated nighttime heart rates and reported lower sleep quality, with direct measurable effects on blood pressure the following morning. One of my patients, a 72-year-old man who lived alone, had been sleeping with the heat set to 74 degrees for years. He thought it helped him sleep. In reality, his resting heart rate at night was 11 beats per minute higher than it should have been. He was essentially making his heart work an extra 10 to 15,000 beats every single night. The fix: set your bedroom temperature between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Use breathable cotton sheets and leave a window cracked if possible. Your heart rate will thank you within the first 2 nights. Pro tip: wearing thick socks actually helps your core cool down faster. Paradoxically, warming the extremities helps release heat from the body's core, speeding up the temperature drop your heart needs. Habit number 5. Scrolling your phone in bed. You already know you are not supposed to do this, but here is what most people will never know. The damage is not just about sleep. It is about your heart, specifically. Blue light from screens suppresses melatonin production, which delays the hormonal cascade your cardiovascular system depends on to begin its overnight recovery. But there is a second layer that is even more damaging. The psychological stimulation from scrolling, the news, the social media, the text threads, keeps your amygdala activated. Your stress response stays switched on. Cortisol and adrenaline continue circulating in your bloodstream. Your arteries remain in a mild state of tension. Every minute you spend scrolling is a minute your heart is not recovering. Research published in Sleep Medicine Reviews found that adults who used screens within an hour of sleep had measurably elevated cortisol levels throughout the night, with corresponding increases in resting heart rate and reduced deep sleep duration. A 64-year-old woman came to me after 2 years of deteriorating sleep and worsening blood pressure. She scrolled for anywhere from 40 minutes to 2 hours every night before turning off the light. She described it as the only time she had to herself. When she replaced that habit with 10 minutes of reading followed by a simple breathing exercise, her morning blood pressure readings dropped by 14 points within the first month. The fix: no screens 60 minutes before bed. Charge your phone outside the bedroom. Replace the screen habit with something that actively calms the nervous system. Reading physical print, light stretching, or the breathing technique described in the protocol section below. Habit number 4. Drinking alcohol to help you sleep. This is where the real danger begins. Because this habit does not just feel harmless, it feels medically logical. A glass of wine relaxes you. You fall asleep faster. It must be helping. Here is what happens inside your body when that logic plays out every night. Alcohol initially depresses your central nervous system, which is why it induces drowsiness. But as it metabolizes, usually 2 to 3 hours after you drink, it causes a biochemical rebound. Your body triggers a surge of adrenaline to clear the alcohol from your system. Your heart rate spikes. Your blood pressure rises sharply. You wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, heart pounding. This is not random. This is a predictable pharmacological response that millions of people experience without understanding what is actually happening inside their chest. A major analysis published in The Lancet followed over 50,000 adults over 8 years and found that regular evening alcohol consumption was associated with a 42% higher incidence of atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat that is the leading cause of stroke in adults over 65. A 68-year-old retired engineer told me he had a glass of red wine every night for 12 years. He believed it was good for his heart. He had read that somewhere. He came to me after his second episode of waking at 3 a.m. with a racing, irregular heartbeat. He had never connected the wine to those episodes. The connection was direct. The fix: eliminate alcohol within 4 hours of sleep if you are over 60. If you rely on alcohol to unwind, replace it with a magnesium-rich drink in the evening. Warm water with a teaspoon of magnesium glycinate powder. It calms the nervous system without the rebound surge. Habit number 3, sleeping on your back with no elevation. This is one of the most dangerous moments of the night, and most people have no idea it is happening. When adults over 60 sleep flat on their back, the weight of the body creates pressure on the inferior vena cava, the large vein that returns blood to the heart. This can reduce cardiac output during sleep. More critically, this position increases the risk of acid reflux, which activates the vagus nerve and can trigger cardiac arrhythmia. It also dramatically worsens sleep apnea, a condition affecting more than 30% of adults over 65, in which breathing stops repeatedly through the night, causing oxygen levels to plummet and placing enormous strain on the heart with every episode. A study published in the European Respiratory Journal found that untreated sleep apnea in adults over 60 increased the risk of fatal cardiac events by more than 60%, and that sleeping flat on the back increased apnea severity by an average of 40% compared to side sleeping. A 71-year-old patient was told his heart was in perfect structural shape. He could not understand why he kept experiencing what he described as pressure attacks in the early morning hours. He had never been tested for sleep apnea. He had been sleeping flat on his back for 40 years. The diagnosis revealed severe obstructive sleep apnea. He is now on treatment, and those episodes have stopped entirely. The fix: sleep on your left side with a pillow between your knees. Elevate the head of your bed by 4 to 6 inches using bed risers, not just pillow stacking, which creates neck strain. If you suspect sleep apnea, request a sleep study from your doctor immediately. This is not a quality of life issue. This is a cardiac risk that is directly treatable. Habit number 2, taking blood pressure medication, only in the morning. Most people will never know this, and it is possibly the most important piece of information in this entire video. Blood pressure follows a predictable daily curve. It is at its lowest in the middle of the night, rises sharply in the early morning hours, roughly between 4 and 8 a.m., and that morning surge is the most dangerous window of the day for heart attacks and strokes. For decades, doctors defaulted to prescribing blood pressure medication in the morning because that is when patients remember to take it. But here is what that timing does inside your body. The medication is at its peak effectiveness in the afternoon, precisely when your blood pressure is already cooperating, and at its lowest effectiveness during the early morning surge, when your cardiovascular system is most vulnerable. A landmark clinical trial published in the European Heart Journal, one of the largest chronotherapy studies ever conducted, found that patients who took blood pressure medication at bedtime had a 45% lower risk of experiencing a heart attack or stroke compared to those who took the same medication in the morning. I cannot stress this enough. If you are taking blood pressure medication, do not change your timing without talking to your prescribing doctor. But please, bring this research to that conversation. Ask specifically about bedtime dosing. Ask if your medication is suitable for evening administration. This is a question that could change the entire trajectory of your heart health. The fix: talk to your doctor about bedtime blood pressure medication dosing. Bring up chronotherapy specifically. This is an evidence-based conversation your doctor should welcome. You are not challenging them. You are bringing them updated clinical science. Habit number 1, the most dangerous: ignoring the pre-sleep warning signs. Your heart is sending you. By the time you notice, the damage is already done. That is not fear-mongering. That is medicine. Your heart communicates before it fails. It sends quiet, easily dismissed signals in the hours before sleep. And the single most dangerous habit that adults over 60 develop, more dangerous than the warm room, more dangerous than the late snack, more dangerous than the alcohol, is the habit of dismissing those signals as nothing. The signals include unusual fatigue that feels heavier than tiredness, a slight sense of pressure or fullness in the chest that comes and goes, shortness of breath when lying down that was not there 6 months ago, a jaw ache or left shoulder heaviness that appears in the evening and disappears by morning, ankle swelling that is worse at night, waking repeatedly between 2 and 4 a.m. for no apparent reason. These are not age. These are not stress. These are the language your heart uses when it is in distress. The American Heart Association reports that more than 50% of cardiac arrest survivors experienced noticeable warning symptoms in the days and weeks before their event, and that the majority dismissed or minimized those symptoms rather than seeking evaluation. A 66-year-old woman had been waking up at 3 a.m. for 4 months. She mentioned it to her husband, who told her it was probably anxiety. She mentioned it casually to her family doctor, who agreed it was likely stress. 8 weeks later, she experienced a serious cardiac event. The 3 a.m. waking was a symptom of paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, fluid accumulation in the lungs caused by an already weakened heart. It was there, communicating, for months. The fix: learn the language of your heart. If any of the signals I described are present, even occasionally, do not wait. Do not self-diagnose. Do not accept "it is probably just stress" as a complete answer. Ask for an echocardiogram. Ask for a stress test. Ask for a Holter monitor to track your heart rhythm while you sleep. These tests exist for exactly this reason, and early detection changes everything. Pro tip: start keeping a simple evening symptom log, just 60 seconds before bed. Write down any unusual sensations, fatigue levels, and sleep quality each morning. Over 2 to 3 weeks, patterns emerge that are extremely valuable for any physician evaluating your heart health. Stop and think honestly right now. Have you noticed any of these signals recently? Have you dismissed something your body was trying to tell you? Here is your complete nighttime heart protection protocol. You can start this tonight, not next week. Tonight. 6:30 p.m. Final meal of the day. Finish eating. Close the kitchen. No carbohydrates after this point. 7:00 p.m. Magnesium routine. 200-400 ml magnesium glycinate with a small glass of water. This mineral supports healthy blood pressure, relaxes arterial walls, and calms the nervous system. 8:30 p.m. Screens off. No phone, no television, no tablet. Replace with reading, light conversation, or gentle movement. 9 p.m. Bedroom temperature set, 65-68 degrees Fahrenheit. Prepare breathable bedding. 9:30 p.m. 4-7-8 breathing, 5 cycles. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7, exhale for 8. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system and has been shown to reduce resting heart rate by an average of 6 to 8 beats per minute within 2 weeks of consistent practice. Sleep position: left side, head of bed elevated 4 inches, pillow between the knees. Adults who follow a consistent evening protocol like this one have been shown in sleep research to reduce nocturnal blood pressure by up to 43% and significantly improve heart rate variability, one of the strongest predictors of long-term cardiovascular health. This routine takes less than 10 minutes. Your heart will notice immediately. Let us bring this together. 7 habits, each one dangerous on its own. Together they create a perfect storm of cardiovascular stress during the exact hours your heart is supposed to be recovering. Eating late keeps your blood pressure elevated through the night. A warm bedroom prevents the temperature drop your heart needs. Scrolling your phone keeps cortisol and adrenaline circulating. Alcohol to unwind triggers a dangerous biochemical rebound around 3 a.m. Sleeping flat on your back worsens sleep apnea and reduces cardiac output. Taking medication only in the morning leaves your most vulnerable hours completely unprotected. And dismissing the quiet signals your heart is already sending you, this is the one that changes everything. This is not fate. This is not irreversible. Every single one of these habits is fixable, starting tonight. The damage that has been quietly building has the capacity to stop building the moment you change the conditions that created it. Your heart has been working for you every single day, every minute of every hour, without rest, without asking for anything in return, for 60, 70, 80 years and counting. It has carried you through everything. It is still here. It is still working. Tonight, give it something back. Not a complicated treatment plan, not an expensive supplement, just the conditions it was designed to thrive in. A cool, dark, quiet room. A nervous system that has been given permission to settle. A body that has been given space to recover. You are not a passive observer of your health. You never were. Take back control. Tonight. If this information helped you tonight, please subscribe. Every week I share life-saving health information explained clearly and honestly for adults over 50, without the confusion, without the fear-mongering, without the complicated jargon. Hit the like button. It costs you nothing, and it helps this message reach someone tonight who may not know they are at risk. You may never know whose life that helps. Drop a comment right now and type, "I am changing this tonight." Or tell me which of these 7 habits surprised you most. Your answer might be exactly what someone else needed to read. And please, share this with a partner, a parent, a sibling, a friend, the person in your life who always says they feel fine, the one who dismisses the small symptoms, the one who stays up late scrolling. You may never know whose life you protect.